Normally I would start with commentary, but hey, I want to drag race some flankers first. Now that we've had a full patch to spend time with the SU-30SM and the J11B, I want to compare and contrast them to figure out which one is the better between the two. Or if not better, at least which one is the right one for you. First, let's take a look at the Su-30SM. Well, if you noticed in the intro clip, it is noticeably slower than the rest of the flankers. If you somehow haven't noticed, this family of aircraft are quite large, and even though the engines have a lot of thrust to them, it still comes out being a little bit underpowered. After all, when your aircraft is the size of a tennis court, there's only so much you can do with your engines. Unfortunately, this means that the Su-30 is unable to climb quickly, or if you have to go into the notch or try to dodge some missiles, you're gonna have a lot less speed to work with most of the time. And no, while the thrust vectoring is very silly, it actually makes the problems worse. The flanker family is already good enough at turning, especially now that they added the little Cobra button that lets you turn off all of your limiters. So while the thrust vectoring can be really funny, all it's really done is made its inability to keep speed even worse. However, let's be real here, the flight performance is not the reason to play the Su-30. Because let me be clear, as long as your flight performance is good enough, you can 100% be carried by having good avionics and a really good missile kit. And spoilers for the J11B section, I actually ended up firing the R77-1 and the PL-12, and the results might surprise you. As you can see, the R77-1, unlike its little counterpart, the R77, can actually get up and go. And while the PL-12 is definitely no slouch in the BVR department, let's just say Gaijin was cooking when they brought in the R77-1. And because this radar missile is so good, the fact that you can take 12 of them, or well, I usually take 10, but still, it makes you a very strong killing machine. But also, you don't just have the R77. You also have access to the R27ET, the longest range infrared missile in the game. And one really important thing that infrared missiles do, that radar missiles do not, is not care about radar warning receivers, because, well, you're not using radar for it. I pretty much always take the two of these, they complement your kit really well, and they're really fun to use. A lot of times, you can find one or two people who will not realize the missile is there until it's too late. And to complement your two different types of long-range death sticks, you also have what I think is the best short-range complementary missile. While the R-73 may not be very good at shooting down things far away, it is one of the scariest missiles to run into at close ranges. 40 Gs of thrust vectoring missile trying to turn towards you is basically impossible to dodge, and if launched in the right scenario, can also be impossible to flare off. All in all, you end up with a missile kit that is honestly my favorite in the game. Unfortunately though, I have big preferences towards big flight performance, and I don't end up playing the Su-30 as much as I should. And finally, you can't go without mentioning the radar on this plane. It's an electronic scanned array, which, without getting too nerdy and into it, it's pretty much a super radar that's really good at scanning multiple things in front of you. And in the Su-30's case, it also comes with the neat feature that it tells you the plane that you're looking at. While it may not be the best plane in the game, the Su-30 is definitely one of the most fun in my opinion, and I highly recommend it if you have the opportunity to give it a fly. Now after all that praise I gave the Su-30SM, how does the J11B compare? Well, I feel a little conflicted because on the one hand, I do like the J11B better personally. On the other hand though, if we're just going off of numbers on my stat card, I've had better games in the Su-30SM. These can probably just be chalked up to luck, but let the numbers speak for themselves, I guess. Anyway, what makes the J11B different? Besides being in the Chinese tech tree, it's a lot more faithful to the original flanker design. Instead of being the 14 missile menace, you only have 10. You don't have thrust vectoring, and you don't have canards, so you're stuck with default flanker flight performance. I say that as if it's a bad thing, but it's really still pretty good. You can still whip the plane around 180 degrees in an instant with the Cobra button, and the engines have more thrust and the airframe is significantly lighter. So while it's missing the features of the Su-30, it actually ends up having better flight performance. After all, who needs technology gimmicks when you have cold hard thrust to weight ratio? Anyway, back to the missiles. The PL-12 is comparable to most other BVR missiles in terms of range, though compared to the R-77-1 it is still slower. It also loses 12 Gs of pole compared to the R-77, however 38 Gs of pole is already more than any other aircraft is going to be doing anyway. Both missiles are still very useful in both close, medium, and long-range situations. I don't really see it as a negative to have the PL-12. Unfortunately though, attached to the PL-12 is a noticeably worse radar. The J11B has a mechanical radar. It does not have an electronically scanned radar. In practice, this means that it can struggle just a little bit more in basically everything you would want a radar to do. It has a little bit less range in finding targets, and it is slightly less good at holding locks too. But it is still a pretty good radar, so I wouldn't be too upset about it. But if you own both aircraft, you definitely will notice a difference. The J11 also goes and replaces the R-73. Instead, you get the PL-8B. In my latest infrared missile video, I actually ended up ranking this as the best IR missile in the game. And in a vacuum, it is. It is very good for an IR missile. It has good range, it turns hard, it ignores flares, but for the overall kit, it could be debated that it is better to have the R-73, considering your other missiles already do everything else. I can't really come up with a matter-of-fact stance of what is better overall for your plane. It's more of a personal choice of the player actually playing the plane to decide what type of IR missile they like more. But the biggest tragedy in my opinion is that the Chinese got rid of the R-27. You don't get the big goofy telephone pole of an infrared missile to go shoot at people 20 kilometers away. While the capability is not really needed, the silliness factor will definitely be missed. Anyway, before the video ends, I just want to promote my Squadron PEWTS PEWTS. If you want to earn free Squadron RP and rep the channel, then I would greatly appreciate it. All you have to do is look it up in game and I'll accept you into it. As long as there's space, I am always accepting new members. The only rule is that you have to, surprise surprise, I like having people in my squadron that I actually will get to see in game. Anyway, that's all for this video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.